This is a new part of MGT. I see lots of people out on various small business message boards who are trying to get there started. They really don't know the process, the various legal and regulatory requirements for how do you start an LLC, how do you set up stuff for taxes, where do you get a bank account, and then for federal and state contracting, what systems do you, like, who do you email, who do you call, what systems do you register with, and then it gets further complex. What not only certifications are required to interact with a lot of the stuff to perform services, but what certifications, licenses, courses, training, etc. do you need to take in some cases to even get access to some of these systems before you even start bidding. And so I'm going to cover down on a lot of that. I'm going to put a pause in here because I'm going to break this up. But hey, my name's Jason, and this is going to be a newsletter and associated social media stack of building an LLC. In my case, this is a IT consulting LLC that my wife and I have started, Monarch Group Technologies. And so we're going to track this in real time. You get a lot of guys out there who post about, hey, buy my course and I'll teach you how I make $10,000 a month, $30,000 a month, whatever. But it's a lot of either after the fact, I did this, or, yeah, as we all know, in a lot of cases, they didn't really do it. They're making money selling the idea of doing it. This is neither of those. What I'm going to be doing is tracking this in real time. It is currently November 13th. I plan to post this November 16th, so I'll be posting every Thursday with a newsletter and everything social media. But this is going to be relatively real time. This consulting company started at the end of August of this year. So really we're about 90 days in. I stood up a great deal of not a great deal, all of the administrative, legal, and contractual type implements, the LLC, my SAM account, my DUNS, all of those things, which we'll walk through in detail. I did all of that in about 3 weeks. Now, that is not because I am highly intelligent. That is not because I am gifted or really, really good at this. Really what it comes down to is I was a federal contract officer representative. Now, that's not what I did, but I was certified as the level 3 core. I was a staff type guy in the federal government and managed contracts, hundreds of millions, $1 billion, sat on source selection boards, all that kind of stuff. So I did so I've written 2 contracts. I've written RFPs and RFIs on both sides of the fence, both as a federal employee and now as a consultant prior to starting this company. So it's really just muscle memory. I know all the terms and all the forms and all the, and I still have a lot of my, I paid attention to my training. So that part of it makes it easy. Also, this is not my first go-around at self-employment. I started my first company when I was 17. Really had no idea what I was doing other than I wanted to tint windows. And so that's what I did. I had a number of companies over the course of, 5 years until I sold everything. So this is also not new. I do understand taxes. I do understand licenses. I do insurance and how to find those things and how to figure those things out. And so the ultimate goal of this is there are a couple parts to this. One, just the interest in following along as ride or die. We're going to build this LLC, and it will most likely work, but it might not. 9 out of 10 businesses do fail. IT consulting is a pretty popular method to get into working with the government. I won't say that it's oversaturated. That's something we'll go into in one of the follow-up videos, newsletters, is where do you find work? What do I know how to do? How do you figure out what to do? Where people are heavily saturated and where they aren't. But we'll cover that. So I wouldn't say that this is heavily saturated. As a matter of fact, since COVID, there's been a rather significant drawdown in a vast swath of the kind of segments of consulting that go on. But we're going to ride or die with this. This may work. Most likely will work. Maybe it won't. But we're going to follow that. Hopefully you're going to follow that with me while my wife and I do this. And then also, the second part of this is having all of this knowledge is great, right? Made it very easy for me to set up this business. Plus, it's fun. It's fun to do things when you know what you're doing, or when you're confident that you know what you're doing. And with this, that first month was great. Building the LLC out, building out SAM accounts, DUNS accounts, and working with the NSA and the DoD and Department and getting all these systems set up, sitting in these classes and these webinars and doing all this training with vendors so that I can provide these services, this equipment. It was a lot of fun because I knew it already, right? I had been on the other side of it. I had already done most of the training as a federal employee, or I already knew it because my contractors that I had assigned to me under various contracts had to do it, and I had to keep track of that. The various security requirements, technical requirements were all very easy, so it was all very fun. And I want to lay that out in more of a checklist fashion and walk through how I knew all these things. Now strike that, not how I know, I already explained that. How do you find these things? Here's a list, here's a general list that everybody's going to have to do because not everything's IT consulting. But a lot of this overlaps. And so how do you get an LLC? Are there ways to get an LLC less expensively than the standard way of doing it? Is an LLC, and then is the LLC the right way to start? I will say that probably 90% of the time, yes, it is. But what type of LLC? We'll discuss that in some of these follow-ons. And again, we're just going to walk through the process of what you have to do, what you should probably think about doing, how to find all that information, how to find the people to talk to, how to get into these courses, what courses you need, what systems you need access to. Some of the heavier stuff we'll cover that'll probably end up being a couple of videos or a couple of newsletters. The 5 W's of RFIs and RFPs. How do you write one? How do you write to one? Because they can get very complex. And then there are different systems. Every federal agency they don't use a standard per se. The DoD kind of works one way, the IC works another, the regular part of the federal government, like Social Security and DHS works its own way. And then there's FedSim, which is a whole system in and of itself where you're just providing narratives to an online system. And so we're going to cover all of that to get you guys ahead. For those of you guys that want to do this, I'm not going to tell you, it's easy to get $10,000 a month, because it won't be. One, you have to have the requisite skill sets that people need, and then you have to have the will, the desire, and the drive, the motivation, all of those things, coupled with a little bit of craziness, to run through all this work, because a lot of it's not going to come natural. You're a one-man show. So for those of you that have been working like a regular W-2 job, have never been self-employed before, you're going to find out that it is substantially overwhelming on the other side. There's so much to do, and I'm not going to say that you can't do it by yourself, because lots of people do, but you really need to assess what your in the government KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities. Couple that with your interest in doing certain tasks, because some of the things that you're going to have to do, a lot of the things that you're going to have to do as an entrepreneur are things that you're not going to have any interest in doing. You're not going to know how to do them. They're going to be difficult to think through. You're probably going to overthink them. And it's going to be drudgery, and it's going to be sometimes panic-inducing. You're going to lose sleep over stuff, and you're going to screw up. And that's cool. That's how you learn. It's probably the best way how to learn. But it drives you to the realization that it helps to have a team. And having done this in the, I'm going to sound old, prior to the age of the internet, where you had to go to an office and you had to call in the phone book, use the phone book to call people, or you had to ask friends of yours who own businesses, where do I find an accountant that that can do taxes for me? Two of my businesses were in Virginia. One was in Maryland, and so different. So you gotta know how to find those people. It is much easier now. How do you find a graphic designer? Like, do you just design your own business cards? It's so much easier now. But it's also stress-inducing, because now you're just questioning yourself. If you don't necessarily have any design capability, and you sit on, I'll plug Moo, and I'll clean this up, I guess, with some others I can think of, that business card companies out there. There's a lot of them. You start questioning your ability to design. Am I doing this right? This looks great to me, but is it right? And so that dulls a lot of the instant access that the internet gives you. Finding CPAs, CFAs, attorneys, all of that stuff. It's much easier. You can set an LLC up online from any state to any state. Most people use Delaware, particularly for C Corps, Wyoming, for a fair amount of anonymity. I think Montana's another one. But sometimes there's a benefit in just setting it up in your home state where you're at. Sometimes there's a requirement to do that. Certain federal contracts require that you don't have that level of anonymity. And so again, that'll be all stuff that we cover through this newsletter. So thank you for listening to this long. We're cracking up on 15 minutes here. And so these are going to come out every Thursday, along with a written kind of version of this. It's going to have a little bit different in it. That I'm going to do also every Thursday. And it's so that'll come out. And I thank you if you are, it'd be awesome if you'd follow along on this journey. If you have any thoughts on it, down below in the comments. I'm going to try and keep up on those as best as I can while I'm multitasking my way through running all this stuff, and to try and answer any questions that you have, or just even reply back to any of the comments you have. So, very cool. See you next Thursday.